She gave him 14 children. The 14th one killed her. He spent the next 22 years building her a tomb. 20,000 men, 22 years. Every wall inlaid with her name in flowers carved from stone. What does a man build when the only thing he ever loved disappears and money is no object? He didn't build the Taj Mahal because he was a king. He built it because he was a man who watched the person who made him human die in a tent on a battlefield, whispering his name. And when you understand what she gave him before that moment, what she carried, what she sacrificed, what she held together while he ruled an empire, the building stops being a monument. It becomes the only language grief has left when words stop working. And you have to ask yourself, is that love, or is that a man trying to pay a debt he already knows he can't? You need to understand something before this story begins. Mumtaz Mahal was not Shah Jahan's only wife. She was his third. The Mughal court ran on political marriages, alliances sealed with vows, kingdoms traded for bloodlines. Shah Jahan had other wives. He fulfilled his duties. He was a Mughal emperor and he understood what that required. But Mumtaz was different, and everyone in that court knew it from the moment they saw them together. Her name at birth was Arjamand Banu Begum. She was 15 when Shah Jahan, then Prince Hurrem, met her in a royal bazaar. He was 16. The story goes that he saw her selling silk and glass beads and stopped walking. Just stopped, and stood there long enough that it became a problem. They were engaged within days. They waited 5 years to marry. Court protocol, astrological timing, the slow machinery of empire. 5 years of being promised to each other and kept apart. And when they finally married in 1612, something locked into place between them that never moved again. She became his constant, not just his wife, his companion in every sense the word can hold. She traveled with him on military campaigns when no queen had to. She rode with him into territories still being won, slept in tents on the edges of battlefields, bore children in conditions that would have broken women with far less to prove. And she kept going. Because here is what you have to understand about Mumtaz Mahal. She wasn't there because she was required to be. She was there because she could not bear to be anywhere else. Shah Jahan was not an easy man. Brilliant, volatile, capable of breathtaking cruelty in war and breathtaking tenderness in private. She was the only person in the empire who got both versions without flinching from either. He trusted her completely. In a court built on suspicion and shifting allegiances, that was not a small thing. She read petitions. She advised on mercy. There are documented records of prisoners released on her word alone. Women in desperate situations, people the system had already forgotten, brought back into light because Mumtaz said so. She used her position the way someone uses it when they actually understand what it's for. She bore him 14 children in 19 years. 14! You need to sit with that number, not as a statistic, as a body, as a woman who was pregnant or recovering from pregnancy for the better part of 2 decades, while simultaneously traveling across an empire, managing a royal household, advising a Mughal emperor, and raising the children who survived, because not all of them did. She buried children too. Grief she carried quietly.
The way women in her position were required to, and then kept moving. She never stopped choosing him, not once. In 1631, Shah Jahan's forces were campaigning in the Deccan, a military push into southern India that required the emperor's presence. Mumtaz was pregnant with their 14th child. She came anyway, because she always came. Because 19 years of marriage had made her presence beside him less a choice and more a condition of how either of them functioned. On the night of June 16th, she went into labor. Something went wrong. The delivery was long, harder than the others. The court physicians did what they could in a military tent far from the comforts of Agra, and somewhere in the early hours of June 17th, after giving birth to a daughter, A healthy girl, a wanted child, Mumtaz Mahal began to slip. Shah Jahan was with her. She had 4 requests before she died: that he care for their children, that he not take another wife who might treat them harshly, that he build her a tomb worthy of their love, and that he visit her grave every year on the anniversary of her death. He promised all 4. She died as the sun came up. What happened to Shah Jahan in the days that followed is documented by every court historian who was present. He didn't eat, he barely spoke. He was seen weeping openly in front of his court, something no Mughal emperor did, something that frightened his advisors more than any military threat, because they didn't know what to do with a king who had simply stopped functioning. When he emerged from isolation weeks later, witnesses recorded that his hair had turned white, his beard too. A man in his 30s, aged overnight by something medicine had no name for. He ordered the empire into official mourning for 2 years. No music, no celebrations, no jewelry worn at court. The whole machinery of Mughal culture silenced, because she was gone, and he needed the world to stop pretending otherwise. And then he started building. The site he chose was in Agra, on the banks of the Yamuna River, land he acquired from a Maharaja, paying generously because he needed it to be right. He assembled the greatest architects in the empire. He brought in craftsmen from Persia, from Central Asia, from across the Mughal world. 20,000 workers, 22 years. Every detail was intentional. The white marble was chosen because she had been luminous. The geometry was perfect because she had been precise. The gardens were designed to represent paradise because that is where he needed to believe she was. And carved into every surface, flowers made of precious stone, inlaid into marble with a delicacy that required years of a single craftsman's life per panel, were the names of God, and between them, the patterns she had loved. He visited her grave every year, on the anniversary of her death, without fail. He kept every promise he had made in that tent. And then, his son took everything else. In 1658, Aurangzeb, his 3rd son, led a rebellion, defeated his brothers, and had Shah Jahan imprisoned in Agra Fort. Not executed, not exiled, imprisoned, in a palace complex grand enough to be comfortable and close enough to the Taj Mahal to be deliberate. From his window in the Musamman Burj Tower, Shah Jahan could see her tomb across the river. He spent the last 8 years of his life looking at it. Historians debate whether this was cruelty or accident, whether Aurangzeb chose that location knowing what it would mean, or whether it was simply practical. It doesn't matter. What matters is what Shah Jahan did with it. He looked, every day, at the thing he had built, at the place she was, at the closest he could get to her from inside a prison his own blood had put him in. He died in 1666, quietly, in that tower, looking at that view. His daughter, Janara, who had stayed with him through his entire imprisonment, refused to leave him. The child most like her mother in loyalty arranged to have him buried beside Mumtaz. He is there now, in the Taj Mahal, in the tomb he built for her, beside the woman he built it for. The only asymmetry in the entire structure, perfectly designed, obsessively balanced in every other way, is their placement. Mumtaz lies in the center. Shah Jahan lies slightly to the side, because the building was built for her, and he knew it, and he didn't change it. Even in death, he made room for her first.
If this story found something in you that you didn't know was sitting there, like and subscribe. We tell the love stories history buries underneath the monuments, and there are more of them than you know.